intend to protect.
So I'm just not going to comment on how they are using any specific weapon. Obviously, the circumstances the circumstances of how any weapon are used would be required to draw any kind of definitive judgment. There are different ways you can use any number of munitions. It's not something I can do from here, but I will reiterate that we have these conversations with our Israeli counterparts at a range of different levels and talk with them about steps we think they can take to minimize civilian harm. We've seen them take some of those steps. There are always things that we think that they can do better, and we'll continue to engage in conversations with them to that effect.
And the Israelis said that Gallant told Jake Sullivan today that they intend for this offensive to carry on for several more months. Is that something the U.S. sees as acceptable?
I am not going to talk about what the Israeli government may or may not have said in that meeting. I will let the NSC speak to it. I will say to the broader question that we have engaged in conversations with them about the duration of this conflict. We don't want to see it go on any longer than is necessary. We want Israel to be able to accomplish its legitimate military aims, which is to ensure that the attacks of October 7th can never be repeated. But beyond that, I will leave it to the NSC to talk about.
Is it the U.S. assessment that it would be necessary for this to carry on for many more months?
I am not going to make an assessment of how long it will take for them to accomplish their military objectives. That really is for them to speak to. But we do want to see, of course, the conflict or their military campaign executed in a way that minimizes civilian harm and allows humanitarian assistance to get in, humanitarian assistance to reach those who need it, and that, of course, is what we're discussing with them all the time.
And last one, given the president's comments the other day about the waning support for Israel given this indiscriminate bombing, is the U.S. position that it would be tenable to support Israel at the same pace that you are right now for several more months?
So again, you're asking me to, it wasn't the way the question was framed, but to answer that question, I've got to speculate about how long the campaign would go, and that's just not something I'm willing to do. Saeed, go ahead.
Thank you, Matt. Just to follow up on Matt and Humaira's thing on the review that you're doing. Don't you need to do that in conjunction with the weapons transfer? I mean, as you are transferring weapons right now. Shouldn't you be doing this according to law as you send the weapons?
So there are rules and conditions that attach to any weapons that we transfer to any government in the world, not just Israel. And one of those requirements is that, and expectations is that they act in accordance with international humanitarian law.
Right, but you don't have to wait until such time that you've accumulated all that information to say, aha, we cannot send this weapon. You have to do it, as I understand, I may be wrong, exactly as you send these weapons, and you are in the process of sending lots of weapons.
And we are constantly in conversation with them about ensuring that those weapons are used in accordance with international humanitarian law and the laws of war.
I have a couple more. Now, when the president is indiscriminate, he knows what he's talking about. This is just not just a casual expression on his part, is it? Right? I mean, he has enough information.
Sorry, I didn't know there was a question. I thought there was a question coming. So
I'm asking you. This is not just I mean, he's been briefed on what happened in the battlefield, what is happening in the bombing, for him to make that assessment. Would you think that would be the case?
You heard the White House speak to this yesterday. You heard me speak to this yesterday. And what I said is, while the White House will speak to his specific comments, and they have, what I believe he was referring to was the impact of the large-scale bombing campaign, that even when the intent is to minimize civilian harm, you can end up with results where far too many civilians are killed, which are the results that we've seen. And and as you've heard the Secretary say, we have engaged in conversation with them to try to narrow the gap between their intent and the actual results on the ground.
A couple more questions. Now, there were reports that apparently the Israeli soldiers were, executing in an UNRWA school some people that they arrested or whatever last week. Yeah, are you aware of this report? Do you have any comment on that?
I have seen the media report. I'm obviously not able to make an independent assessment of that. I will reiterate what I have said, which is that it is important that Israel conduct this operation in a way that complies with international humanitarian law, that complies with the law of war. It's essential that when there are allegations of wrongdoing, that Israel look into those and investigate those. But I'm not able to confirm the reliability or veracity of that particular report.
And lastly, I promise, you said that you understand Israel's goal at the end to disallow Hamas from committing whatever. Yeah. Do you believe that it is getting close to that goal? I mean, do you have like any kind of, do you envision a timetable that
Again,
this is happening?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you're done.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is Israel. Again, this is Israel's military campaign.
Right.
They're the ones conducting the campaign. It is up to them to make assessments about how long it will take and where they stand in accomplishing their goals.
Because the reason I ask this is because the defense minister today told Mr. Sullivan that this can go on for months, many more months.
And I will let the NSC respond to those conversations, as I said, in response to the question from Jennifer.